Welcome to 4-1, writing equations in slope-intercept form. So this should be a review for us. We've already talked about this a little bit. So when we're talking about slope-intercept form, remember that we are talking about y equals mx plus b. And we're going to write an equation given the slope and a point. So you can write an equation of a line if you are given a slope and a point other than the y-intercept. So we're going to write an equation of the line that passes through -4, 2 with a slope of 3. So a line has a slope 3. To find the y-intercept, replace m with 3. So we're going to replace our m with 3. And x and y with -4, -2. So our x is going to go in for our x and our y is going to go in for our y. We're going to solve for our b. We get 14 equals b. Therefore, our equation is y equals 3x plus 14. Here's another example. Write an equation with the line that passes through -2, -1 with a slope of 1/4. So again, we're going to plug in our slope. We're going to plug in our x and our y. If you want, write x and y right underneath your point so you know which one goes where. You're going to solve for b. Once you get b, we're going to plug that in for b, and we get our equation y equals 1/4 x minus 1/2. So let's practice that. And it looks like I started my notes on the answer sheet. So what we are going to do is erase those, pretend like you didn't see them, and then we're going to check our answers as we go. Okay, that's what I wanted to do, was check our answers as we go. So we're going to do a couple of these and we'll check them. We don't need to do all of them. All right, so let's do the first one. So we're given our slope. Our slope equals 2. We don't have our b. We need to figure out what our b is. We can kind of guess what it is right here. So it looks like it might be -1, but we'll double check that using algebra. And so we have 3, 5. So our x is 3 and our y is 5. And now we have our equation y equals mx plus b. So we're going to plug in our y, which is 5, equals our slope, which is 2, our x, which is 3, plus b. We're going to simplify. 5 equals 6 plus b. Subtract 6 from both sides. And it looks like our b is a -1. So our equation is y equals 2x minus 1. Now let's check that answer. And that's exactly what we get. Let's do one more example. Let's do, well, we already kind of know what this is going to be because our y-intercept is at 0, 0. So we're going to have y equals -2x. So we don't have to even worry about doing that one algebraically. Same thing for this one. They make it super easy because their y-intercept, we can see what it is, but let's double check to make sure that it's 1, 2, 3, positive 3. So let's double check. If we have a slope of 1/2, we have our x, which is 2, our y, which is 4. We're going to have 4 equals. So our y equals mx plus b. Our slope, which is 1/2. Our x, which is 2. So we get 4 equals 1 plus b. And we get, we're going to subtract 1 from both sides. We get 3 equals b. Oh, hey, that's what we had. So now we're going to have y equals 1/2 x plus 3. All right, let's do a couple that are not easy to do. So let's do this one where our slope is 0. So let's see what happens when our slope is 0. So we're going to have m equals 0. We have x equals -5, and then y equals 4. So we're going to plug this into y equals m, so 0x plus b. So we get 4 equals 0 plus b, which is 4 equals b. So we're going to have y equals m, which is 0x plus 4. And that's actually going to simplify to y equals 4. So let's check that out. And that's what we get. All right, let's do another one. Let's do a fraction. we'll do number 12. So number 12, we have our slope, which is 1/5. We have our x, which is 0, our y, which is 350. So we have 350 equals 1/5 times 0 plus b. This one looks similar to number 7. So we're going to have 350 equals b. So we're going to have y equals 1/5 x plus 350. So this one's a little bit different. But they kind of get worked out the same. So we have our slope and we have our y-intercept here. So let's move on to the next section. So we're going to write an equation given 2 points. So now we're given 2 points. That means we have to figure out our slope, and then we're going to do the same thing we did. So the only step we're adding is the fact that we have to use m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we're going to write an equation of the line that passes through 1, 2, and 3, negative 2. So we're going to find the slope. So we're going to plug in, and sometimes it helps to write x1, y1, x2, y2 right above it. And so that tells us we have y1 negative 2 minus 2, 3 minus 1. So that's what we have. And so now we simplify that. We get our slope equals negative 2. We're going to plug that in. Then we're going to just pick one point. It doesn't matter which point. So if we picked our first point, we're going to plug in 1 for x, 2 for y. We get 4 equals b. And just to show you that it doesn't matter which point we use, let's do the next point, which is 3 and negative 2. So x, y. So if we have a negative 2 equals our slope, which is negative 2 times x, which is 3, plus b, we get negative 2 equals negative 6 plus b. We're going to add 6 to both sides. And look, we get 4 equals b. So it doesn't matter which point we plug in, as long as we pick a point that was given. All right. And then we're going to plug in our slope. We're going to plug in our y-intercept, and we get our equation. Let's look at a couple of these examples. And now it's really easy to look at a graph, and at least the ones they give us, and we can figure out our equation just by what they give us. But sometimes we're not going to be given pretty graphs. So we do need to know how to pick a lattice point. Even though they're given to us, we should pick out a lattice point, and then pick out the other one to figure out our slope. So don't forget, we're going to use m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then we're also using y equals mx plus b. So again, this should be a little bit of a review with some extra stuff added onto it. So let's look at this point. So if we did find our slope by using the graph, we know that it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 1. So it looks like our slope should be 4 over 1. Let's check that with algebra. So slope equals, let's make this x1, y1, x2, y2. It really doesn't matter which one is your first point or which one's your second point. So y2, negative 3 minus y1, which is positive 1, x2, 0 minus x1. All right, so now we're going to get m equals negative 4 over negative 1, which is positive 4 over 1. Hey, that checks out. Awesome. So now let's plug in y equals mx plus b because we need to figure out our y-intercept. Technically, we're already given our y-intercept, so we don't have to find it algebraically. But let's double check just to make sure in case we were the ones that picked this point and this point. So let's check it. Let's see. Let's plug in 1, 1. So if we plug in 1 equals our slope, which is 4, x, which is 1, plus b, we get 1 equals 4 plus b. Subtract 4 from both sides. Hey, we get negative 3 equals b. That's exactly what we got. Awesome. So now we just plug it into our equation. We get y equals our slope, which is 4x minus 3. So that should be our equation. Let's check it. And that's what we get. All right, let's try some where we're just given the point. So let's just do number 4. So number 4, we get our slope first. So y equals or oh my goodness, m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So let's say x1, y1, x2, y2. And so we get our slope, which equals, well, y2, negative 10 minus 6 over x2, 7 minus a negative 1. Be careful, remember, minus a negative means we add them. So our slope is going to be negative 16 over 8, which gives us negative 2. So our slope is negative 2. So now we plug it into y equals mx plus b. Let's just pick our first point to plug in. So we're going to have 6 equals negative 2 times x, which is negative 1, plus b, which gives us 6 equals negative 3. Just kidding. Positive 3 plus b. We're going to subtract 3 from both sides. We get a positive 3 equals our b. So now we can write our equation now that we have our m and our b. So y equals our slope times x plus a positive 3. Now let's check our answer. Make sure we did it right. Uh-oh. I did something wrong. I totally can't multiply 2 and a 1 to get 2. So let's fix that. 2 plus b, subtract 2 from both sides. We get 4 equals b. So now this is a 4. So I made a silly mistake. I only would have gotten about a point or a half a point off if this was a test. That's why we show all our work. Okay, go ahead and let's try. Do we want to try a harder one? Anything with 0 is going to be a little bit easy. So we're already given our y-intercept here, so we could easily just figure out our slope. So let's find your slope. So we have x1, y1, x2, y2. When we're given this, that actually also makes it super easy when we have an x-intercept and a y-intercept. Watch what happens. We have y2, which is 5 minus 0 over x2 minus a negative 3. So then we get 5 over positive 3, so 5/3. We already have our y-intercept, so our b equals 5. So we should have y equals 5/3 x plus 5. Let's check it. Bam, that's what we got. Checks out. All right. If we want to listen to one more example, go ahead and stay on. If not, go ahead and get started on the homework. Let's do number 6. So number 6, we have x1, y1, x2, y2, and we're finding our slope first. So m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I always have to write it out. If you don't, that's okay, as long as when you write this equation out, you are keeping track of everything. So we're going to do y2, which is 3, minus y1, which is a negative 25, over x2, which is a negative 1, minus x1, which is 6, and then we're going to end up with 3 plus 25, so we get 28 over, and it's going to be a positive 28. Negative 1 minus 6 is the same thing as negative 7, so we get negative 4 for our slope. Now we have to figure out our y-intercept, so y equals mx plus b. We plug in our m, which is negative 4, times x. I want to do small numbers, so I'm going to pick the second point. So minus 1 plus b equals y, which is 3. So we have 3 equals positive 4 plus b minus 4 gives me a negative 1 equals b. So now our equation should be y equals negative 4x minus 1. Let's check it. Bam, that's what we got. Awesome.